Chelsea, I probably would start just like 2 minutes late again, like we did last time, to give people a chance to log in.
Okay, sounds good. We'll do.
Thanks.
Welcome to those of you that just signed in. We will start the roadshow in about 5 minutes.
Hello, is anybody out there?
Yep, we will get started in just a few minutes.
Okay, just making sure I was here and there and
Yeah,
here.
welcome.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Welcome to those of you that just signed in. This is our 1-minute bell. We'll start the roadshow session in just 60 seconds. Hi there. I'd like to welcome everyone to this virtual session. My name is Chelsea Bragg, Director of Marketing here at ARCOS. It is great to see everyone on the line today. I'm so glad that you were able to join us for what I think will be a very unique and interactive experience. We had some shipping issues this time, so we usually send out some care packages. We had some issues with FedEx. So I'll talk more about the thumbs up, thumbs down in a little bit. But typically we do these mini conferences in the summer and in person. And while we wish we could have kept our schedules, I don't think I have to tell everyone on the line that COVID put a bit of a damper on everyone's travel and meeting plans this year. Despite that, we are looking forward to seeing everyone's faces today and connecting with you all in a new way. To enjoy this session to its fullest potential, you'll need 3 things today. So you'll need your laptop, smartphone, tablet, or just simply a second screen, and then signs if you've participated in a show before, or just using your hands to show the thumbs up, thumbs down. If you don't have a second screen handy, no worries at all. I just suggest that you have a second tab open if possible. So today we'll be using Zoom. So for those of you who are new to Zoom, or if you need a refresher, the mute button and arrows allow you to turn your microphone on and off. And this is also where you have all of your speaker options. The start video button is how you're going to share your webcam today. And if you click the arrow next to it, you can choose camera options and maybe even a fun virtual background should you so choose. If you click participants, you can use this to see who is on the call, but also take note of the raise hand button. If you have any questions or if you need to clarify or make a comment, please make sure you use that. You can also change your username by hovering over your name and then clicking rename. If everyone could actually just take a quick moment and do that right now, at least have your first name and then your last initial, that would be great. It's really helpful so that everyone can know who's talking when. Then the Q&A button on this webinar will be used for technical questions only. In just a minute, I'll show you the fun tech that we'll be using for interactive product questions, comments, etc. At this time, if you could also please turn your cameras on, we and your fellow peers would like to see your wonderful faces. And this also allows for some participation with either your thumbs up or thumbs down or your sign that has the thumbs up or thumbs down, which I'll explain more about in just a moment. Okay, so this year, to encourage new ways to interact during these roadshows, we've developed a new interactive software to help determine top roundtable portion and to allow you to comment and ask questions during the session. You can use this QR code here on your phone, or you can use the website listed here if you have another monitor that you're using. Just make sure you use the meeting ID #14263. This will take you to the live Q&A screen, and you can feel free to submit questions or just comment on the content or to others during the presentation. We will make time for a few questions at the end, and if we don't get to them, no worries, we'll follow up with an answer for you in the next 24 hours. If everyone could please take a moment to do this right now, make sure it's working, and if you've got any technical issues, please submit those questions through the Zoom platform so that Jonathan can help you out on the back end. All right, so in addition to Slido, we typically send some props for the roundtable in order to promote interaction. But like I said, unfortunately, we had some shipping issues this week. So if you don't have the signs with you, no worries. Just please use your thumbs up and thumbs down gesture in your camera. Before in the roundtables, someone had to voice their point of view, and we would give the group an opportunity to either agree or disagree, and then they would explain why. So rather than having everyone talk at once, we can use the signs or the hand signal to make the process smooth and to help us identify those who would like to speak. All right, so really quick, we'll do a practice round. So make sure your cameras are on and you're ready to go. First question is, Game of Thrones is the best TV show of all time. Thumbs up or thumbs down? Oh no, Jonathan's got a thumbs down. Christy's got a thumbs down.
So sad.
James. Jenna's going to be heartbroken. Jeffrey's got a thumbs down. Jenna loves Game of Thrones. All right, awesome. Second question. New York pizza is better than Chicago deep dish. I know, those are a tough call because pizza is pizza. Am I right? Thumbs up, thumbs up. Lots of thumbs ups there. Awesome. All right, so we will occasionally call on people randomly if it gets a little too quiet throughout this session. So make sure that you're ready. And at this time, I'm excited to introduce my wonderful coworker and Game of Thrones lover, Jenna Teeters, Director of Marketing here at ARCOS. Take it away, Jenna.
Thanks, Chelsea. So, ready to get started. And I know some of you, I think most of you on the line today have attended one of these, so that's good. We can jump right in. What I'd like to do is just quickly go around the virtual room, if you will, and talk, if you could just say your name, your job title, what utility you work for, and what ARCOS solutions you've worked with in the past or that your company has. Okay, So in my view, it looks like Brenda, you are first. You wouldn't mind going?
I'm going to change my name. I'm always first. Yeah. My name is Brenda Bennett. I work for First Energy Work Management. Stephanie Mormon is my boss. We currently have a whole suite of ARCOS products. We have been using Callout for a good while. I came from the old Allegheny companies, and we had Callout originally, and then First Energy got Callout. So I personally have been using Callout for about 14 years. We are getting ready on Thursday to go live with Crew Manager, Resource Assist, and Incident Manager. So that's kind of exciting and scary all at the same time.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. And
You're
good
welcome.
on your implementation.
Thanks.
Is it James? Is it James or Jim? I can't remember. I'm so sorry.
It's whatever. I'm good. I'm good with either.
Okay.
No, James Ensminger, First Energy, like Brenda. Actually, Brenda's my boss. No, we're analyst, project manager of the project that we are implementing here, making ARCOS, kind of bringing in the whole suite of products. So like Brenda said, we've had Callout, we've implemented Callout for our physical resources throughout First Energy, for our linemen, substation, any reason for like a blue sky Callout. We are implementing Crew Manager, Resource Assist Lite, Incident Manager on Thursday. So in about less than 48 hours, we're gonna, and any emergent event that's coming through, we will be using the ARCOS suite of products, and we're looking to implement the SMART tool either in first or second quarter of next year.
Great. A lot. Good luck on your implementation this week. Brian, you're up next.
Hey, Brian, Stone Rock, Southern California Edison. My role is really planning performance management for distribution. We are a Callout user, and we've explored Crew Manager, but we don't currently have that.
Okay, great. Jeff.
Hey, hello, everybody. It's Jeff Plackus, engineer with PSCG Long Island Emergency Planning, a long-time Callout user since the early days, mid-2000s, looking at different expansions and different implementations as to what we want to do. Probably was one of the first users of the API between our HR system and the ARCOS system that we instituted a few years back.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Colt.
Yeah, hi, I'm Colt from McKinsey Electric Cooperative out of Watford City, North Dakota. I attended one of these last month. Kind of the same thing. We don't have ARCOS or anything here. I just kind of found this and was intrigued by it. So I guess I'll just kind of be paying attention to see what everybody else has and what they're using and for what, and see if that's something we want to implement here.
Great. Thanks for joining today. And then David.
Hey, good morning, guys, or I guess it's good afternoon now. My camera, for some reason, is being finicky, so good news for all of you. You don't have to look at my face at this point. So. No, with Upper Peninsula Power Company here in Upper Michigan, we've been using ARCOS here for the 5 years in our existence, and then I have 15 years before that in Wisconsin. So basically, we use ARCOS Callout here, but I was as the systems evolve, looking at Crew Manager, Resource Assistance, and Manager, it's just nice. I've tried to get to as many of these as I can just to hear the testimonials. Things look good in a PowerPoint and then a statement of work type thing and a, job proposal type stuff. But it's nice to hear the testimonials from all the folks from, it sounds like we got quite a smattering here from California to New York, Dakota. I don't remember if it was south or north. I can't remember. Sorry, guys. But just trying to learn and see if we can use any of the other bolt-on items to what we already use it for, which is strictly callouts after hours.
Great. Thanks for joining. All right. So what we will do from here is, as Chelsea mentioned, we're going to be using Slido today. And today's topic for the Roadshow is cost recovery and emergency response. And so I would like to ask, and this example is obviously from the Northeast Roadshow, but it's what causes you the biggest headache during cost recovery? So how this works is you are going to log into Slido either with the QR code or go to slido.com and input this 14263 event ID number and go to the polls section. And so once you're there, you enter just 1 to 2 answers to the question, the poll question, and after that you can see other answers. So if you'd like to agree with another answer, you can start typing in that answer and it will auto-populate, and then you just select it and submit. So as more answers get resubmits, if you will, the phrase or word will get bigger in the word cloud. And so I'm going to go ahead and switch to Slido so you can see it. So what causes you the biggest headache during the cost recovery process is the topic for today. And we'll just give, I'd also like to welcome, I know we have a couple of folks watching perhaps on YouTube live from Ameren in, well, I can't remember which Ameren they're from today, Illinois and Missouri, I think might be both. But anyways, they'll be watching on YouTube live and participating in this portion as well. They're unable to access Zoom. So they will be participating through Slido and including entering answers to the questions or putting their input in through Slido as well. Okay, there's a couple of really big ones already. All right, I'll just check on the Ameren folks, make sure. Have everything. Okay. Just give everyone 1 more minute and I will go ahead and put these topics into the PowerPoint so we can discuss. Okay, looks like we have definitely a big 3 this time. We'll start with those, and if we have time left, we'll dive into some of these other ones. Obviously, reporting and invoice reconciliation, communication with external entities, and since reporting and invoice reconciliation kind of go together, we will add. Actually, we'll keep it there, and then if we have more time, we'll continue because Chelsea has some things to show you at the end as well. Okay, let me get our PowerPoint back up here. All right. So, when we're talking about reporting, what are some of the biggest challenges you have with reporting after an event for cost reimbursement? You can put your thumbs up if you want to go first. If not, I will call on people randomly. All right, I'm going to call on Brian first.
Yeah, so Jenna, I really worked to close out voice reconciliation like better, but we've been successful in the last number of years. In California, we have a catastrophic event memorandum. We have a process that we write some testimony. The portion I've called before is usually just a handful of pages that describes the work that we've done, errors and that kind of stuff. people, understand the disaster it was declared. Interveners.
Brian, I'm so sorry, but you're breaking
Do I have a
up
bad
quite
connection?
bit.
Okay.
Yeah, no, sorry.
Okay.
Brian, I'm so sorry, but you're breaking up quite a bit. We heard about half of that. Sorry about that. Maybe you can try speaking again now that your video's off.
Sorry about that. I'm sharing my inner sophomore in high school, and I'm hoping he's doing high school, not a multiplayer online game. But is it better now, or?
Yes, it's much better. I'm sorry. Could you just repeat that? I apologize.
Yeah, I'll try. So what I was getting at is, in California we have a process that requires us to file testimony, and the T&D portions of it, the explaining the work, explaining that the governor declared an emergency, those types of things don't usually become controversial. But what we tend to be challenged with is the same invoice reconciliation, which I call work order closeout. Really, for us, it's about making sure that the jobs are all completed. So sometimes we'll have things that are lingering, like environmental or just things we've agreed to that are more structural in nature, that just take a longer to complete. So for us, we'll tend to call it and close out the work that we have and try to tie it up and pay all the invoices and all that kind of stuff, so we have truly final costs. Because otherwise we spend a lot of time arguing about like what else might be coming, or justifying what the actual work was. So it really just ends up being like a accounting and invoicing accruals type process, really making sure that all that's closed out, and takes a sometimes inordinate amount of time for that to happen.
Okay. Yeah. Does anyone else feel the same? Do they struggle with that? Thumbs up or thumbs down, either with your sign or just your thumbs up, thumbs down? Yes. No. Yes. Okay, great. Anyone else? What's another large challenge you have around reporting and invoice reconciliation? I'm going to call, oh, Jeff, I see you.
I was going to say that a lot of that comes between the consistency from utility to utility. What one utility calls one classification of employee might not necessarily be the same as another. Whether it's resources, manpower, equipment, doesn't make a difference. And really, this question can be looked at both ways. It can be looked at not only when we're requesting assistance, but also when we're providing assistance and providing that invoice to the utility that we helped, that we supported. We need to reconcile that invoice. That I looked at it both ways. So it's a double-edged sword. I think the biggest is documenting everything. One of the other challenges we have is, if we're having an event, we're not 100% sure, is this going to be, a government, a FEMA reimbursable type of an event, until maybe we're 2 or 3 days into it. So, a lot of it depends on what other entities are also engaged in restoration. If it's, just us, maybe not, it might not be big enough of an event, but, something like an Isaias, which was large enough, or some of the hurricanes that have hit the Gulf Coast, I'm sure that they're large enough for FEMA reimbursement for some of those, those entities that can get reimbursement. So when do you start to document it? And it's really pulling the trigger on documentation. You kind of have to do it, even though you have to document it, even though you're not sure if you're going to recover any costs. So you have to do it from the get.
Yeah, that does sound challenging.
Yeah, so it adds an extra layer of complexity, an extra layer of work that you always have to do. The one thing that's, I guess, a benefit is that if you're doing it the same way every single time, eventually we become better at it and we become good at it, but it is tedious.
Yeah. How about others on this call? Are they struggling with the same thing, documentation of everything while the world is falling, and then you have to go back and look at it? Is that something you struggle with? Yes, I see some nods. Okay, great. Brenda, I'm gonna ask you. I'm gonna put you on the spot a little bit, if that's okay. How about First Energy? Are you involved much in the cost recovery process and kind of looking after an event to look at what costs occurred and things like that due to work?
I have not been up until this point. Now that could change because I came from one of the operating companies and moved into the corporate role. But I do know that at the operating company I came from, we never knew if we were going to get any recovery on an event. So it always depended upon the size. So documentation was very important in that sense, because we didn't know. We may be, like Jeff said, we may be 2 or 3 days into the event before we reach that it's possible that we could get some recovery on. So that was one of the things that, at least at that operating company, we started trying to be real consistent in our documentation during the event. So the after event was much easier for them to be able to pull the necessary documentation that they needed for reimbursements.
Great. Thank you. Colt, I'm curious to know since you're a cooperative, how does cost recovery come into play for you, and how is that handled? And what challenges do you have?
As far as the accounting and reporting and all that, I think documentation, just like everybody else, seems to be a big thing. And, it is time consuming, but it does help out in the long run. But yeah, as far as us goes, we don't have hurricanes, obviously, or anything up here, but we do have our fair share of, 100-mile-an-hour windstorms, tornadoes, ice storms in the wintertime. So, we are a smaller entity, but it seems like we face the same challenges everybody else does.
Yeah. Great, thank you. And then David, just curious, you're kind of up in a similar area as Colt. How do you handle, post-event cost recovery, and what are the challenges for you? Are they the same? Are they different?
Well, I assume it's largely the same as what other folks have said. I don't really get into that a whole lot. We're more of the system operations part here, but I know I think it was the gentleman from New York had mentioned classifications amongst utilities, where an employee is a journeyman here and a second class lineman there. So there's always that rate shuffle when you're trying to recoup the costs that you've incurred by sending folks out there. So that's my limited experience with this stuff. Again, it's not broad based by any stretch of the imagination, but that's just what little I know of our situation.
No, that's great. Thank you. So I have a question to throw to the group as like a part 2 of this reporting and cost recovery. And that is, how are you documenting? Are you doing it manually? Are you doing it in multiple disparate systems? Are you using ARCOS for some of it or all of it? How are you documenting, and what are, maybe there's a challenge there if it's multiple systems. If anyone wants to share their story first.
I'll start. Currently, all of this documentation is in a resources on demand tool, where we track all of the people who are moving during an event. And in 2 days, that's going to change. So we're going to start using the ARCOS suite of products. But no, we currently, and for the next 48 hours, if a storm pops up, we'll track it either through resource on demand, emails from contractors with rosters, uploading of Excel spreadsheets for rosters. So
great. I'm excited to see how that changes for you, and hopefully it makes your life a little bit easier.
We'll let you know.
Yeah. Jeff, just curious, how are you documenting things right now, today?
So they're all in separate systems. Outages, incidents are managed and documented in our outage management system. The logistics, which has to do with lodging and meals, that's tracked on spreadsheets. The crews that coming in from to give us assistance from mutual aid or contractors, that's tracked in a foreign crew tracking system, which really is a bunch of linked spreadsheets back into a home-built little tiny database at the moment, which can import some of the sheets from ROD if they're crew transfer sheets. We still have legacy resources on demand that we use for some of that documentation, but not a lot.
Yeah, great.
And it's just a matter of putting all the pieces together. It's like a puzzle at the end of the effort.
Great, thank you. Yeah, and thank you. I just want everyone to know on the call, as well as Resources on Demand actually was purchased by ARCOS a couple years ago, and it's being rolled obviously into Crew Manager, just so you know how that's all connected when you hear people, if you haven't heard of that before, for those on the call. Brian, how are you documenting? I mean, you mentioned a couple of things, but what kind of systems are you using to document all of this information?
Consolidated system, similar to others. A lot of our financials stuff is in SAP and related systems. We have a scheduling software schedule. We track that. Data set is helpful, but otherwise we have lots of Excel spreadsheets, things that are for systems. We have ICS. So when we have large events, so incident action plans are also another very useful and official source of
record. I'm afraid that you're breaking up just a little bit again. I'm so sorry, Brian, but I think we caught a good amount of that, so I appreciate it.
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. No worries. Colt, have I asked you yet? No, I haven't. Okay, Colt, how are you documenting? Are you doing it with spreadsheets, or are you doing it in different systems? I know you mentioned on our last roadshow you had a work management system that you were kind of working with now.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things, like when we had a big windstorm that came through this summer, the crews obviously were out all day, all night. We just generate a work order and then start keeping track of the areas and projects and stuff like that as we're going along. We're probably not as big as a lot of other people. So for us, I think that works for the time being, but I haven't heard of any issues, from that type of documentary perspective, I guess. So that's what we do.
Great, thank you. And then David, I know you're not as involved in the accounting side, but how are you documenting work and work status and things like that right now?
We have a box of 64 Crayola crayons and a napkin. we just use a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
To the best of my knowledge, very similar to what other folks have said previously.
Yeah, great, thank you. Awesome. So what other, I'll throw this out before we move on to the communication piece, but are there any other challenges with reporting or invoice reconciliation that we haven't mentioned so far? No? Okay. All right, well, we'll move on to the next topic, which is communication with external entities. For those of you that put this on the Slido word cloud, what did you mean by that? What's your biggest challenge? Anyone volunteering? You have to call on people. All right.
Well, I can speak a little bit to, Jenna, for our group.
Sure. Great.
Being and Colt might have the same experience, being a far northern entity, getting called to a far southern entity. There's a lot of regional dialect nomenclature. We call something, you call it this, we call it that. So it's just standardization on the same topic or same idea, same. I don't know if that makes sense. We just have different names for things than folks in the south and probably in the west and east. So
Yeah.
there are some similar things, but a lot of it's different.
Yeah, that makes sense. That definitely standardization. I think that's a challenge across the board, from what I've heard at our conference and other conferences for sure. James, I'm gonna call on you. Communication with external entities.
Yeah, I didn't put that on there, so I wouldn't be the right person to talk to about that. I know we have groups within our company that take the data. We have a regulatory reporting organization who takes the data and from the our tools, or we have area managers who work with the mayors of different communities. So I wouldn't be the person to talk to about that.
Okay, no problem. Anyone else who put this on here? It ended up as one of the top ones. What challenges were you facing with this? Jeff, I'm going to call on you.
I don't know if that's, it's kind of like always a challenge. It's always there. So I don't know if I would I didn't vote for it because I don't see it necessarily as being like an overwhelming, like the biggest, my biggest headache.
Okay.
So it's kind of tough for me to comment on it.
What is your biggest headache? Just curious.
It's reconciliation, without a doubt.
Reconciliation.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, great. So, anyone else who voted for this? Obviously, some people did because it ended up as a big word on the word cloud. What were you thinking when you put this on? Why is it your biggest headache? Everyone's so quiet today. Okay. Let me go back to the word cloud. We'll bring in another topic from the word cloud. Actually, before we do that, I'm just going to throw out, because a lot of cost recovery is obviously tied. It's a post-event challenge for emergency response. And so I'm just going to throw out a question here, which is, before the cost recovery, when you're responding to an emergency, what are a couple of your just very biggest challenges, either with reporting or with communication with external entities? So not necessarily with cost recovery, but just emergency response in general. What are your challenges with reporting in real time? And does it take a long time? And is it tedious? And what are you using to report during emergencies? I'm going to call on people. Colt. Nope. Yep. Colt.
I think for us, we're like I said earlier, a smaller co-op, so we have limited resources as to our own employees. But we do have access to quite a few contractors that we work with daily, that we can call on a moment's notice to go and help replace poles, fix down lines, whatever we have. And I just think trying to keep everything together and keep everything tracked as to what's fixed, what's not fixed might be one of the bigger problems. But a lot of our stuff really rural too. In a lot of places we don't have phone coverage or radio coverage. So just making sure that things are getting done and what's getting done is being relayed back, so that our operations knows what's going on.
Yeah, great. David, do you struggle with that same like large territory up in maybe not so populated area?
Well, yeah. In a lot of respects, we're geographically just like the Dakotas. We have 13 customers per line mile, which if you talk to someone from New York, they'd laugh at that, or Southern Cal, or But we've got a lot of pine trees, a lot of obstacles in between the substation and the customer that like to come down and wreak havoc on our system. So yes, we share a lot of those as well.
Mm-hmm. And as far as reporting during an emergency, your biggest challenge?
It depends on what you mean by reporting. Are you talking governmental agencies or?
Either. Whichever one is your biggest headache.
Well, I don't know if there's government folks listening, but FERC and NERC are certainly 1 and 2 or 2 and 1 of our biggest headaches.
Yeah.
We have a lot of, we have several hydro plants that we operate in Upper Michigan, and anybody who's familiar with that, you've got license requirements, and if a plant trips in the middle of a storm and you can't get to it for a day and a half, what do you do? And you got, in one instance, one of the storms we had a plant trip, and then we had 38 trees on the line between the plant gate and the plant itself. So how do you navigate? It's just, there's a lot of issues that we see, but certainly governmental regulation is probably 1 and 2 for us.
Great, thank you. Brian, let's try this again. Oh, sorry, Jeff, you unmuted.
No, go ahead. Let Brian speak.
Okay, Brian, let's try this again.
Yeah, it's always an adventure, right? So I'm gonna try to turn on video too. I'm gonna hold my phone in a different position. So we I think similar to others, we do a lot of manual tracking, and we have an automated outage management system, smart meters, and all that kind of stuff. So we keep track of the work that way. For me, it's usually about trying to figure out if we need to move resources, because we're pretty spread out. We actually have 500 contract and Edison crews at this point in time, but we also have 50,000 square miles, so we can get a lot done in a pretty short period of time. We've got some pretty massive fires that we're dealing with. Some of you may have seen on the news, but just for reference, we're going to replace probably in the neighborhood of 100 miles of covered conductor. Bare wire was there. We're going back with covered, and probably around 1,000 poles just on the fires that we've got. Massive camps because of COVID, that kind of stuff. So we move resources in pretty significant ways. Not a lot of sharing of resources out here on the West Coast. It's a lot of self-sufficiencies between us and PG&E and San Diego. A little different than I know some of the rest of you. But on your specific question, Jenna, we recently installed hundreds of cameras on our system, and we have weather stations approaching 1,000 now, very granular. So we're doing public safety power shutoff, also probably something many of you have heard about. But yeah, situational awareness is very different today than it was previously. And of course, this is around fire threat, different than, hurricanes and other stuff. But yeah, we've got lots of data and tracking. We know when the fire started down to the minute, when the line relayed before or after, whether or not we have camera, satellite imagery, and all that kind of stuff of exact points of location. So situational awareness nowadays is pretty integrated. A lot of dashboards. Our emergency operations center, which of course nobody's at anymore, has got huge monitor walls where we can put any kind of display, from the news to all of the different tracking tools and outage counts and how many customers are off and who's been notified. And it's pretty impressive. We've invested quite a bit in the last 18, 24 months. And so, yeah, our tracking systems are, for fires especially, are just amazing. Really, really impressive stuff that we're working with nowadays.
Do you feel like, how many systems are we talking about as far as resources?
Yeah, so, on the development side, we started using an agile approach. I take it my audio is coming through better.
It is.
Okay, that's good. Since you didn't make any faces while I was trying to speak. Yeah, okay, so interesting. So we have a number of systems that are being replaced in the next few years, but we've been using an agile approach. So our development teams have been trying to build minimum viable products and really go from an idea to a skateboard first, very quickly, and then turn the skateboard into a scooter, and then eventually maybe you get a Corvette or something. And that's my joke that I always make with Bill too. But we've been progressing over the last few years. But yeah, a lot of different systems that are being integrated nowadays. So we have like data lakes. I'm not an IT guy, but I've seen how we put all the information in a common platform, and then people can pull Power BI and SAS VA types of tools together really quickly from various data sources, and give us basically, as real time of access to multiple systems through that type of reporting.
Great. Thanks for sharing your experience. Brenda, I want to talk to you because I know you and James really both, you're about to implement, ARCOS Crew Manager, Resources, and Incident Manager. And I know part of the reason for that, just being involved over the last few years, is obviously for visibility and for reporting as well. So if you don't mind, if you just want to share kind of the vision of what you're going to be able to accomplish, because of this reporting during emergencies.
Sure. And that's what I was thinking about when you asked that question was with Resources on Demand. Although, it did what we needed it to do, it was rather cumbersome and it was time consuming because there was so much manual intervention there. You had to get the data, you had to prepare the spreadsheet, then you had to upload the spreadsheet. So regulatory reporting, being in an operating company and regulatory reporting is calling you going, okay, we need to report on these numbers to the commission and we need them, as of a half hour ago. And I'm going, well, wait a minute, I don't have everything yet. I'm still waiting on people to get things loaded. So for us, that's one of the things that I think that we're really looking at going forward with Crew Manager, is that we think that there's a critical step there, that the time period is going to be shortened, that we'll be able to report that information, not only for regulatory reporting, but for management, for them to be able to make a decision on, these are the number of resources that we have. This is what I have available. This is what I'm going to need. And we like I said earlier, we do have 10 operating companies, and it's funny because they're all such, the territory is vastly different between all of them. We have, Toledo, which is mostly, I would call city, because I come from West Virginia, which is very rural. When we used to request resources to come to help at Mon Power, that was one of the things, especially in the fall and winter months, is that we need to make sure that they have 4-wheel drive, because so much of our area is rural, and we would have lines that were down or poles that were broken, and they literally would have to build a road back in to get to that damage. So I think for us, that's one of the things that we're looking for, is to be able to get that reporting information out to the agencies that we need to get it to, but more importantly, being able to get that information to management to be able to make the decisions that they need in a more timely fashion.
Great. Thank you. I'm so to see the results after you've had it for a few months. That'll be great.
Yeah. And I'm really looking forward to Resource Assist too, because, being able to work with the responding partners on it. I think that's, and I was a ROD person. So I learned ROD inside out from day one. So I'm really, really looking forward to how it's all going to come together. I'm actually a little excited about it. I'm not real excited to have an event, but I'm excited to see it all come together.
Yeah, no, that's great. I appreciate that. And then for those of you who aren't as familiar with ARCOS products, Chelsea, after we do this roundtable, she's kind of going to go through the cost recovery process and show where each part of ARCOS comes into play. So you'll get to see kind of the picture from the ARCOS side as well. Jeff, I'm going to put you on the spot because Jeff is one of our emergency preparedness experts, and he is going to be speaking at our conference next year. But Jeff, I'm just going to put you on the spot and ask you, what are the maybe top 2 best practices you've found for documentation and reporting during an event?
I was actually I wanted to mention something before. And really, if you take out the whole cost recovery element out of this equation, then I would say probably your number one is that communication, and it's communication external and internal. So that's the point that I wanted to raise before Brian and Brenda spoke. That when you look at this equation, but don't look at it in the cost recovery world, and just look at it in terms of an event, an incident, storm restoration, whatever you want to call it, that communication, that rises to the top probably every single time. And there are a lot of things that can go right and can go wrong with communication, but the number one paramount thing that I feel, my opinion, that all utilities need to do, and we sometimes don't all do it well, is speaking with one voice. And you're all singing the same song, but half the people are singing it in a key of A, and the other half of people are singing it in a key of C, and it's not in harmony. And that's a problem, because mixed messages getting out too, whether they're regulators, whether they're our customers, whether they're mutual assistants, if they're not getting the same message, that creates issues down the road. So I kind of wanted to caveat that and say that was, when you look at it, communication is probably paramount to most anything. I think so if I were to say what's the best practice, speak with one voice. Make sure that all of your information is being collected. Make sure that all of your information is being warehoused or stored, reported on, and disseminated through the exact same channel every single time. In other words, it's fine to have the president come up and speak at a press conference, but really, that's great that the president wants to do that, but that might not necessarily be the president's job. That should be the public information officer, regardless of who that is. Public information officer might not be it shouldn't be your president. So we're a devout follower of incident command. That makes things a lot simpler, because when we go to speak with state, federal, county, town entities, we're all speaking the same common terminology. And that's probably the number two thing, is that common terminology. You got to have that common terminology to be able to understand, so that they can understand what you're saying and you can understand what they're saying. So
Great.
I hope that kind of makes sense. And I don't know if that really answered what you were looking for in terms of the
No,
question.
it did. It did. I just kind of wanted to get your thoughts out there,
Yeah.
Because I know
you don't want to get me started talking about ICS. I could talk for the rest of those 40 minutes.
I know. That's good. That's good. I will throw this to the group though. Does anyone have any questions about the platform, since it's a smaller group today? Just questions about maybe to Brenda or James about the platform, how they're going to be using it, or to Jeff about some best practices that he's found for both emergency response and post-event. Does anyone have any questions to throw to the group before we move on? Everyone's so quiet today. Anyone?
Jenna, I'll ask one,
Yeah,
if it's okay.
Sure.
We like to talk a lot about how ARCOS scales up and scales down so easily between blue sky and dark sky. And I'm just always curious from the folks that are actually using our solutions in the real world, if they actually find that to be the case. Has it made your life easier? Having that situational awareness and instant information about employee availability, does that make it easier to scale back and forth between blue sky and dark sky?
Anyone can answer here. Yeah, there
Brenda,
you go.
I'm gonna speak for call out here. I believe when we implemented call out, we implemented it not for storms, but for just calling out. Now, storms are a reason people are called out, but it did assist with us getting people in the shop faster, getting people on the road faster, getting people, we know who's going to be in, and it's not that manual call process. So that was very beneficial. And we are anticipating moving through Crew Manager to be the same way. And just like Jeff said, that one language, you understand, who's where, what we're doing, and kind of, using the same process across our, because we have 10 operating companies at First Energy. So using the same process across all 10, getting them all speaking the same language, working with the responding partners or contractors who are coming on through the resource assist tool. So there, we're seeing, we're hopefully going to see some pretty big benefit in that world. Without even the bumps and bruises that are going to come with going live. So hopefully we're going to see some good gains there.
Great, thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks, Christy.
It's good feedback.
And I would say, and I would add, kind of going back with the cost recovery too, one of the things that I'm really looking forward to is, because of the resource assist and the documentation that's going to be associated with that, our invoice reconciliation after the event itself is going to be so much easier. We're going to have more leverage, because a lot of times we didn't get those invoices until 2 or 3 months after the event happened. And it's kind of hard for everybody to remember all the little nuances. And did this responding partner really work this many hours, or what time were they released from the event? And I think that's another one of the things that we're really looking forward to, is that additional documentation that we'll have to be able to help with that reconciliation, just at the beginning level, even before we get into the cost recovery part. But initially, we didn't feel that we had a lot of wiggle room, or a lot of ground to stand on when we were questioning an invoice. So this way, we think we'll have a better handle on that as well.
That's great, thank you. And for those of you who aren't familiar, Resource Assist is a contractor management solution that's part of the ARCOS platform. It helps automate a lot of and document a lot of the processes around obtaining contractors and managing them. So thanks for that. Anyone else to the group before we move on? Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for your participation in this roundtable session. Now I'm going to hand it over to Chelsea, and she's going to talk a little bit about cost recovery and ARCOS and how those pair together. So Chelsea, take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Jenna, and thanks everyone. Really good conversation today. So back in September, we held a webinar on improving your cost recovery process. And during this webinar, we launched a couple of polls, and we found some of the information to be super interesting. So 70% of the utilities that participated said that their reimbursement process takes 12 months or longer. And then 50% of the utilities we polled said that they only receive between 70 and 80% of the reimbursement that they originally requested. And we were kind of surprised by that. That's a lot of money left on the table. And so we were kind of curious, and we dug a little deeper. Why is it so tough to get 100% reimbursement and get that done in a timely manner? And what we found is there's a lot of challenges. And like we learned today, many of those surround reporting and invoice reconciliation. And one of the themes that I kept kind of hearing among all of you is how important time is. It takes a ton of time to get the restoration activity details you need to validate expenses for reimbursement. The manual effort required to track all these numbers is staggering. And at any cost, you can't attribute the restoration. They don't get reimbursed, is what I'm hearing. So we've heard all kinds of stories regarding cost recovery procedures in which the utility incurred additional cost above and beyond what they spent in the restoration given the event. So if you add up time, legal fees, new hires, and interest on top of that, those are costs that you simply really struggle to recover. So it makes sense to kind of shrink the amount of time that it takes to collect the information needed for cost recovery. So most problems stem from manual gathering and estimating of data based on what I was hearing today. So deploying manual processes like whiteboards, systems that don't talk to each other, and ancillary spreadsheets can cause issues. Collecting all this data on the front end is time consuming enough, but the time that it takes to consolidate, package it all up, and compile the data to actually tell your story for reimbursement ends up kind of doubling your efforts on the back end. Another process that presents issues when assembling cost recovery data is handwritten field assessments. Poring over historical work, trying to make sense of what was really restored because of damage versus just regular wear and tear further adds to the complication. So yikes, you've added time to the process on top of that. Typically without an electronic system in place, obtaining reporting details around crew resources, inventory, and expenses tied to completed work, it ends up being a monumental task. And as everyone was talking about today, that seems to be very clear. Finally, we can't forget what happens when you incur fees that you didn't really have to. I believe, Brenda, you kind of mentioned this. Examples would be contractors invoicing you that you can't prove, expenses incurred for things like meals, hotel rooms that were never used. These things can not only add to your costs, but they are not recoverable because you can't prove them. So where do we come in? ARCOS can provide the forensic level data needed by utilities to prepare reporting for cost recovery, rate relief, storm funding approval, etc. We do this through Crew Manager, Mobile Workbench, Resource Assist, Event Wrapper, and more. Because ARCOS is managing work, resources, and logistics in real time throughout the entire life cycle of an event, critical data can be retrieved in support of post-event reporting, answering the tough questions around who, what, where, when, how, and why. ARCOS is much more than just call out. It's an entire suite of resource management solutions that can make your life a whole lot easier during the cost recovery process and beyond. So some of you on the call today mentioned that you're only using call out. So you can easily track who responded through this solution, who worked when by resource type, and so on. However, our fully automated resource management platform, which includes the ability to plan resources, manage resources, as well as work, can provide you with far more detail around resources used for restoration, including where people and damage was located, automated time and expense tracking, both for employees and for contractors. You can manage them in one system with ARCOS, which provides proof of where resources worked, what they worked on, how long it took them, and then what resources were used to complete the job, meaning like contractors, utility field crews, mutual assistance, etc. So materials, including providing the work that was done, the inventory used to repair the damage, as well as assets themselves that were damaged. Our mobile workbench solution helps you capture complete details of damage of assets attributed to an event, giving you the ability to capture photos and videos and repair details for each job, how long it took to complete the repair work, where it was completed, and what resources performed the work, as well as what materials were used to repair the asset. So ARCOS Mobile Workbench saves all of this information, the who, the what, the when, the where, the how, in your environment so that you can easily access the data needed for recovery efforts. You're not doubling up your work there. So finally, we come to logistics. This is the crew care component, where conceivably hundreds of thousands of dollars are spent on hotel rooms, meals, expenses for travel, PPE equipment, setup and oversight, even some vendor expenses we've heard from some utility customers. So part of our resource planning suite includes the ability to plan for resources you are requesting, the resources you have, and the associated expense that you will incur. Additionally, by having visibility into this plan and looking at your actuals, if you will, you should be able to manage overruns, hotel rooms that go unused, overages in email and meals and expenses and other crew care expenses that you may have come up. So ARCOS Resource Assist Lite, Resource Planner, and Event Planner, these all play a key role in your cost recovery efforts. We know that cost recovery process can be daunting, as you have told us. Leaving 30% or more on the table during your reimbursement based on the poll that we did can have a negative impact on your utility, and we would love to help. That's why we're here. We love being in a partnership with you all and learning from you in ways that we can help solve your really tough challenges. Please let Jenna or I know if you're interested in learning more about any of the solutions, because we would love to make your lives a little easier. And speaking of Jenna, I will turn it back over to her to close out today. Jenna, you're muted. There you go.
Yes, I was having trouble. My mouse is dying, sadly. Anyways, so I just wanted to close out, and knowing that ahead of time that many of you are, you work with call out, or maybe you don't have ARCOS, and some of you are in implementation. I just kind of wanted to show the platform itself, because over the last, I mean, I've been here for 6 years, and we've gone from 2 components in our platform to about 10. And just wanted to kind of show just kind of a full vision of what the ARCOS platform looks like, just so you have an idea of the different processes it's used for now versus when we started with call out. So obviously now ARCOS manages people and work and pairs those 2 things in the same place. And we provide solutions for incident management, obviously call out and scheduling, shift management. We have a solution that helps companies automatically trade and swap shifts, or automatically bid on new vacation bidding packages and things like that. That's kind of part of our shift management solution now. Obviously crew management, which we've talked a lot about today, as well as work management, and contractors and mutual assistance management, all of those external resources, if you will. And then all of this is for daily operations and gray sky or emergency events, and they have a mobile component, historical capture, location enabled, and of course, we have developed a very flexible API to connect to all those other very important business systems that you use on a daily basis. So I'm not going to go too deep into this, but I just kind of wanted to show you, you know, our full platform in a glance, if you will, before we go. And then if you have any questions, feel free to email, like Chelsea said, feel free to ask us. We can point you in the right direction, get you some videos or resources if you'd like to see more. So, so today we did, I apologize, I didn't update this from last week, but we did top challenges around cost recovery, and then the functionality from ARCOS and how to use the platform to gain transparency for these cost recovery efforts. And we appreciate you. I think we're ending a little early today. Appreciate all of your help and expertise and participation today. Obviously, these are what the new normal is, these virtual meetings and events, and we appreciate you getting on camera and sharing with your peers, and hopefully we gave you at least a little bit of way to connect with each other today. So yeah, I hope you have a great week. It's a good Tuesday, at least in Ohio. The sun is shining. Hopefully it is sunny where you are as well. And yeah, have a great rest of the week, and we appreciate all that you do, and we'll continue to work on building solutions that help you. So
Jenna?
Yep.
Jenna? Yeah. It's Jeff. Just a quick question. You know, throwing it out there, you mentioned before that I'm on the steering committee. Happy to throw my support in and help. Would you be able to share any updates with the group that's on the call today? Maybe give them a little update as to what the plans are going forward. Maybe they might be excited to hear about that.
Yes, Jeff, I do. I have updates for you as well. We've made some decisions.
Oh, okay.
Actually,
okay.
is going out tomorrow, but I'll just give everyone a preview. We are moving to a fully virtual conference for 2021. However, we have invested in an amazing virtual platform that has a lot of interactive elements, more than just a Zoom call, to where you can connect with each other. Jeff, I will give you more details on that tomorrow, but everything's written. So this group is the first group to know we're going fully virtual, but that's okay.
All right, well, we have to swear secrecy to Jenna and the team at ARCOS not to share any side of this group
until Friday. Yes. No, I appreciate that. But actually, that's a great point. That's one of our favorite events that we do. Probably the favorite. We try to get together, all of you in the industry, get you together, get you sharing best practices like this on steroids, basically. And we're looking forward to sharing, obviously, everything that you all have gone through this year and what you've learned. So we will be fully virtual. More details will come out on Friday for that. So that'll be perfect. Yep.
Sounds good.
All right.
Gonna miss everybody again.
I know. Thank you so much. And have a great week.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.